My name is Michelle, and I'm doing a presentation on the trifles and defending Minnie Wright. The time frame began in 1916 when women did not have the freedom that they do now. Women didn't have any political rights, and they were not treated equally. They were told to stay at home, and their only job was to cook and to clean for the husband. So the men were overpowering and controlling, very controlling. Minnie Wright, she was a lonely wife with a husband who was never home. She didn't step foot outside for years. She rarely had any visitors, and she stayed in the house for long periods of times, which caused her to become crazy and delusional. But back in the day, she was very pretty, and she killed her husband, which is John Wright. He was explained to be very cold-blooded. All he cared about was his farm, and he killed the only thing Minnie had, which was her bird. He was really controlling and made her guests feel very unwelcome and uncomfortable, and this is why she wasn't allowed to have very many visitors. Sarah Hale, she had a soft spot for Minnie. She wanted to cover up for Minnie. She was convinced that John Wright killed the bird, which led Minnie to kill her husband. And she's been living in the town for more than 20 years, so she knows exactly the type of person that John was, which was a horrible person. Mary Peters, who was a sheriff's wife, felt obligated to snitch on Minnie. After finding all the overwhelming evidence against her, she felt that it wasn't right to lie to her husband or to keep anything from him. She was convinced that Minnie was the murderer of her husband. She was new to the community, so she had no idea what type of person John was. So all she had was based on the little that she knew about him. Now Miss Hale convinces her to change her mind and to resume Minnie's innocence. Now the clues that they found indicated that Minnie was held responsible for the murder. The quilt showed bad stitching, and it showed how nervous she was in that situation in that day. The bird cage was broken by her husband, and he ended up killing the bird. So that is the reason why Minnie killed her husband. The motive is clear that she killed her husband, John Wright, because he killed the only thing that was close to Minnie, was that bird. She cared a lot about it. And the lawyer and the sheriff had no idea because they weren't presented with these clues. They only went off of what they saw upstairs. The woman remained quiet about the quilt and the bird cage. So they had some trouble struggling to find the truth. The bird was all that Minnie had. She talked to the bird kept her company, and it was the only thing that was close to her. John Wright has always made life difficult ever since they first married. And the bird was the only friend that Minnie had. So the final straw led Minnie to kill her husband after she found her bird dead. Now Mrs. Hale versus Mrs. Peters. Miss Hale felt that Minnie killing her husband was awful, but at the same time she understood why she did it. Now knowing what kind of person John Wright was, Miss Peters had no choice but to tell her husband, because her husband is a sheriff, and she didn't want to lie to him or keep anything from him. Miss Hale convinced Miss Peters that Minnie wasn't an evil person, that John was the person at fault for treating Minnie the way that he did for so many years, and how wrong of him it was to keep her locked up inside the house and allow her no outside company or to do anything outside of the house. Miss Peters had a change of heart and doesn't realize that Minnie, what Minnie had put up with all these years.